Celestial webinar on building applications with React utilizing the SaaS Starter Kit. Presenting today is Jason Klein, CTO of Celestial. My name is Phil Maroller. I am the Director of Business Development for Celestial. Also joining us is Mark Guzmano, Senior Architect. He is on as well, and he will be available for questions. We would like to have you ask questions at the end of the webinar, and we're going to go ahead and start in. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome. Thank you for joining the second installment of our webinar on building enterprise applications with React. I'm Jason Klein, CTO of Celestial Systems. So what do I mean by building a enterprise-grade React application? React is an excellent framework, as we've covered in our previous podcasts, for building high-quality modern web applications. It's a very popular choice, but the downside with that choice is that there are many choices to make after you make the React choice. It's not a comprehensive all-in-one solution. Once you decide to go with React, you have to choose UI frameworks, persistence frameworks, state management, complex components, authentication, everything else that goes with it. It can add up to many thousands of choices. And while those choices, if put together correctly, will result in a very high performance and fast, high velocity, high engineering velocity type environment, it'll be very easy to build those applications. It can be very daunting to make all those correct choices the first time, especially if you don't have a lot of experience in-house building React applications. So for our part at Celestial Systems, we have a lot of experience building these React applications inside of enterprise environments. And we've learned a lot. We've found a lot of repeating patterns. And we want to do our best to try to share some of what we've learned with the wider world, so that hopefully it'll be easier for others to make those same sets of decisions that we've come to. So who is Celestial Systems? We are a full stack enterprise application development professional services company. We have a lot of experience, of course, in the front end with technologies such as React and Flutter, but also legacy technologies such as XJS. And so we've built many applications, all web-based. We've also built mobile-based applications with React Native and Flutter. But of course, building the front end is only a fraction of the story. You have to have a back end to go with it. So we have an entire team that is dedicated towards building out high-quality backends, and they're skilled in a number of technologies, including, of course, Node and JavaScript, but other platforms such as Microsoft's .NET and Java. And once you've built the application, of course, you need to be able to test to verify the application actually works. And so we have a QA team that is primarily focused on test automation and building software to test the software. And so we can get the application tested and verified with that team. And of course, then you have to deploy it, which means cloud providers such as AWS and Azure, or Google Cloud, or your in-house cloud platform. And of course, that means a DevOps team. So we can provide you at Celestial Systems as much help or as little help as you need. If you just need testing, we can spin up a team for you. If you need all the way up to an entire application built and deployed and scaled, we have the set of resources and developers that can get that done for you. So that is a very quick overview of Celestial Systems. We are located primarily in North America, and then we have our two primary engineering offices in India. So myself, I'm out of Seattle, and we have a number of engineers spread throughout the United States, as well as our 200 plus engineers split between our Noida and Bangalore locations. So what makes an enterprise, or what does it really mean to build an enterprise React application? As I mentioned in the intro, there are a lot of choices to make. The React itself has undergone a transformation over the last 2 years, from being a class-based component system to a functional-based component system, and then more recently with the introduction of React hooks, you now have a choice of building your components completely functionally, so using functions as opposed to classes, and so making all of those choices around the hook system is one thing you have to decide. Theming is I didn't mention before, theming is a completely open choose your own adventure. There's everything from SaaS and less, which have mature technologies that have been around for a while, pure CSS with variables, CSS and JS, and a number of other kind of rebuilding of CSS and theming inside of JavaScript. And so there's plenty of decisions to be made there. Of course, you need to make, and all of that theming is just to make sure that your application looks and feels like it belongs as part of your organization. So, but then once you've got it looking right, you still have to make sure it's secure, and only the right people can get into the right parts of the application. So a big part of enterprise applications is authentication and security. Oftentimes, large organizations are dealing with lots and lots of data. So most of the time, enterprise applications are dealing with components that allow you to manipulate, view, and understand that data. So that could be grids and charts, maps, or other kinds of 3D visualizations that may help you get a handle on your organization's data. But how do you actually get that application data from your wherever it might be residing, or multiple places that it might be residing, to to your web browser? And that means data access. And so you might want to be using traditional REST type technologies where you're fetching data via an HTTP API from a database or some other backend, or you might want to think about using a more modern approach or a newer approach like GraphQL, where you've modeled your data and you have into a graph, and then have the ability to query that graph directly from your application. And so we'll be looking at a few of these things today, So what Celestial Systems has done as part of our process of building all of these enterprise applications is we're trying to take some of those best practices, the things that we can take out and make generic, and put them out into the broader community, and help build upon all the great open source technologies that we have built upon. And so that we've collected that set of recipes into a project called Lattice JS. And like regular food recipes, we're not building any proprietary technology or custom magic frameworks in Lattice. We're really focused on, can we provide a set of recipes for building from existing open source building blocks to build higher complexity applications than you might find from a point solution like a component library or design system, or a data fetching library like Apollo. How could you put those things together to build a more complex application? So that gets me to what the specific topic we're going to be talking about today, which is one particular project we've coined the SaaS Starter Kit. And after building, I don't know how many, at least 5 or 6 SaaS type applications, and we all know what those look like. We decided to try to open source some of that so that we for ourselves would have a starting point for the next time a client came to us and said, I need an application that looks like X. And what are some of those hallmarks of a SaaS application? these should all be fairly familiar to you. So SaaS applications have users and groups, but they also have orgs. So if you think about GitHub or Slack or Teams or pretty much any other application that's sold as a SaaS product, they group everybody by orgs. So every company or user organization has their own org, which means they have their own unique set of users and groups and rules and preferences. And maybe access features that they have access to based on the package that they've purchased. And so you need to have users and groups that are organized by organizations. And that could also apply for your internal applications as well. So you might have a sales org and an engineering org, and a marketing org. And, you don't want all those groups to mix. So you might model that also as orgs, even if this is an internal kind of SaaS type application. We, as part of this open source project, we give you a reference backend, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So a SQL schema, a server, and the other pieces to basically bootstrap a simple version of the orgs and users and groups. Reference authentication. So we baked in some basic authentication setup. We're using a product called another SaaS service called Auth0, which is an excellent enterprise grade single sign-on solution. It's very accessible because it has a free version that you can, if you want to try this stuff out, you can go ahead and use it that way, but it scales all the way up. Of course, other alternatives, actually I'll cover that in a minute. And then, of course, there's a React application, a reference React application that manages all the above and basically gives you a starting point to start building your particular feature and application. But that feature and application will get all of these benefits by default. So really, this is just a starting point. We've built much more advanced versions of this for our clients. And we're slowly, as time permits and as time and resources permit, adding more and more to this particular platform. There's lots of other features that we have envisioned that will make this SaaS starter kit richer and richer over time, or at least we hope so. So what are our core integrations that we provide? So as I mentioned a second ago, we're using Auth0 for authentication because GraphQL is a pretty cool technology. We wanted to provide an out-of-the-box example that included GraphQL because it's a great aggregator and entry point for enterprise applic data. And we're using another open source project called Hazura. Hazura is a great product. And then our default out-of-the-box schema, because Hazura right now supports Postgres as its primary database, we're providing the SQL schema and then the metadata for Hazura using Postgres. And so just a quick deep dive on Postgres and GraphQL. I know I'm hitting on a lot of very high level technologies. So if you're not familiar with GraphQL, I'll try to give you a quick tutorial, but definitely go check it out if you haven't taken a look at it yourself. So GraphQL is really about being able to aggregate data from multiple data sources. In the enterprise, this is a very common problem. You might have dozens of databases. You might have thousands of microservices that have a REST API. You might have maybe if you're starting to really grow this, you might have federated GraphQL where you have multiple GraphQL servers that each kind of deal with their own little part of your empire, and you need to aggregate them together for your application. So you might, what GraphQL is really good at is aggregating that data across multiple sources and making it look like a single data entry point. And so you might have in a single query like this example here, you might be pulling data from a REST API to do a geolocation for their address, but you get their main profile from a Postgres database, but your application doesn't know or care. And so that's one of the great things that, and Hazura is not a unique or proprietary product. It's just a really nice version of it that's easy to get up and running. There are plenty of other GraphQL server providers, everything from open source to commercial and proprietary. So definitely look at it as an option for as you start to build out these enterprise, either internal or external SaaS type applications where you're building dashboards and needing to pull in data from all kinds of different locations. So what about authentication? I've mentioned it a couple of times already. You need to be able to do single sign-on. You might have an existing on-prem provider, or you might use a cloud single sign-on provider. Most large enterprises have some flavor of this, whether it's Active Directory on-site or whether they're using Azure to host Active Directory, or maybe using AWS's Cognito or Okta, or the one we've chosen to use today, which is Auth0. So that pretty much brings me to the demo. I've done enough talking already. So I will switch my screen over to the live application and kind of give you a walkthrough of what I've been talking about for the last couple of minutes. So let me switch my screen here. And this is the Hazura Console. I'll just quickly walk through this to give you an idea. These are all the tables that we are providing as part of the SaaS Starter Kit. So we've got a users table and user role table and an organization table. So in this, I've got a couple of different test organizations. And then organizations have members, and then there's a couple other tables around roles and things like that. So we've got kind of the basis to get you started. Now you may already have this capability inside of your company, and you may want to do this differently, but we're giving you a starting point just to get up and running and play around. Or maybe you're building your next great billion-dollar unicorn SaaS startup, and this is might save you a few weeks worth of work. So we're trying to give you a full out-of-the-box solution that you can get up and running on as quickly as possible. So that is our database schema. GraphQL, of course, has Hazura has a built-in GraphQL console, so you can query your data. So I can come in here and maybe create a query for some, I want to query my tasks, and I want to order them by whether they're complete and then the date created. So if I come in here and query it, then I get some JSON back with all of the data in it. And so again, this isn't a tour of GraphQL or Hazura, but just want to give you a quick taste of what we're talking about. So if I flip over to the actual application, I'm not logged in right now, so I'm being presented with with Auth0's default sign-in. So I've set up an application just for this demo called the SaaS Playground, and I've got my personal login there, and I log into the application. And so now I'm seeing our React application here. And actually, let me, and so I belong, as part of this login, I belong to the two organizations that you saw a second ago in the database, the Lattice JS org and the Celestial org. And if I go ahead and click on one of these, and so this is kind of our default management dashboard where you can see which organizations you belong to. If you're the super administrator like I am, you can go ahead and create new organizations. In this example, we don't have a whole lot of information that you need to put in, but you got to name the organization. You got to give it a short code or a URL to navigate to that organization. I want to pick the theme color and click save. And so now I've got a new organization, and I think I belong to it because I'm the super admin. But again, the way you set up all of your user permissions is up to you. So if I drill down into the Lattice organization, I can see that there is currently only a single user. I can go ahead and add a new user. We've tied in with Auth0 and with Hazura's Authentication. So by inviting a new user to the system, it'll actually send them an email through Auth0 and invite them to your organization. If they already are in the system and they just belong to another organization, then there's a different flow for that. But we've taken care of all of those kind of sub flows, and you can quickly add new members to your organization. You can assign them to roles. The user groups are basic at the moment, but you can add new groups. But you can see where we're giving you the basics, and you can build on top of that to suit your needs. The other thing I can do here is I've got a profile page, so I can see, oh wait, it looks like I got logged out. Let's see if I can try that again. All right, so I can see my profile, account credentials. So if I want to reset my password, I can see all the organizations I belong to and the role in those organizations. I could upload a photo and build out my profile. And again, these are just database tables and some React views. So if you want to add more profile properties or make this different, it's choose your own adventure at that point. If I pop back over to the organizations and I am in Celestial, I can flip over to Lattice. You can see the org code is up here in the URL. That's the code that I put in for when I created the organization. And the little demo we're going to talk about today, or the functionality that we're going to add today, is this tasks application. And so we've plugged in a new task app or view into the dashboard. And if I pop into here, I can see that this is a really simple to do application. I can new demo task, click add, it pops in here. If I flip back over to the data in GraphQL, or sorry, in Hazura, the new demo task shows up right there. So not a whole lot of magic. It's just there's a SQL database under the covers, and we're exposing it with GraphQL. I can check on and off the which tasks are done. But because this is all keyed off of the organization I'm in, if I flip over to the Celestial org and then drill down into the tasks, I see I have a completely different set of tasks. Let's see, maybe I should check off some of these. So I've created the demo, I've integrated Auth0, and let's see, I don't know how well I practiced the webinar, but I did practice. So we'll see how the rest of the webinar goes. So these are my tasks for Celestial, and these are my tasks for Lattice. So again, this is a fairly simple, trivial example, but it is a full-fledged little miniature application inside of the SaaS Starter Kit. So that is the live demo. Now I want to take a quick look at the application source code to show you that, yes, there is no real magic. So let me switch my screen share to VS Code. And so here's the application. It's created from our Lattice template for the SaaS Starter Kit. It comes with a number of pieces. We have some components that are our views. We have a context. We're using the React Context API. So for the organization and the user and user groups. So if you need to have access to the user and the groups they're in, and then the org they're in, you have context that you can get access to. All of the views for building out the profile are here. most of this is, there's a lot of boilerplate around setting up your styling and importing all your UI components. The navigation is here. It's all fairly straightforward, but of course, this is all time-consuming stuff that really distracts you from building the application you want to build. So speaking of that application, I can look at the task list view. And really, this is the only piece I had to add to once I have my SaaS starter kit up and running to add new functionality. And I've built this all-in-one view just for ease of explanation and simplicity. Of course, there are a lot better ways to organize your GraphQL queries and everything else. But for now, we'll keep it all in one place. So as I was talking about, I've got a GraphQL query to go fetch all the tasks. I limit the tasks to the org ID that I'm currently in, do some filtering and sorting. I've got some other mutations, some GraphQL mutations to insert a new task and toggle on and off the task and maybe delete the task. The view itself is all pretty simple. There's nothing fancy or proprietary here. We're using the standard React context API, and we're pulling in that org context because I want to know which org I happen to be in at the moment. And then I have some other local state for the little text field where I type in my new query, or sorry, my new task. And then I have the Apollo GraphQL hooks for fetching the data. I've got the query task that I defined above, and then the only variable I need to pass in is what org do I happen to be in at the time, and of course the mutations. So these are all fairly straightforward handlers for toggling the task on and off, deleting the task, and inserting the task. And of course, we're not handling every single error case and all the other issues that might arise, but using GraphQL is you can go straight from your view. You can pull in the data that you want and the shape, exactly the shape that you want, and you can just start using it. And there's not a whole lot more you need to do. And then down in the view, should look fairly familiar to you if you are a React developer. So I'm using the Material UI design system component library, which has grids and boxes and all the usual stuff you'd need to, and lists all the stuff you'd need to build the application. And then I've got some logic in here for displaying a loading message while I'm waiting for the query to populate, and then an error message if there happens to be a GraphQL error. You might want to do something a little fancier than that to shield your users from raw GraphQL errors, but hey, this is a demo. And then once the data is loaded, then I just iterate over, I just map over all the tasks and display the task itself. And then, I've got the functions to handle the various events. So when I click on the checkbox, and then when I click on the delete. And then lastly, I have a text field down here that is setting the state of the task text, and then an add button to handle the actual add. So the summary here is that, I've written a single, I have all this other boilerplate that enables building out a SaaS application, users, logins, groups, orgs, all that good stuff. All I had to do to add a new piece of functionality, if I had an idea or a thing that I needed to add to my organization's SaaS app, is I just had to build a single view. Now I could organize that view however I'd like, because again, this is just React. But the point being is that I can build an application that is as simple or as complex as I want it to be. I get all of the features and functionality of the surrounding platform, and really all I need to know about is a few simple either contexts and a couple of other APIs that allow me to pull data about the current user that I am logged in as and the org that I belong to. And that is a really powerful and quick way to get to have a platform like this to quickly build new features and capabilities, because you're not spending a lot of time with the boilerplate getting set up. Now, that is the code demo. Let me switch back to the PowerPoint and have a few closing thoughts. Okay, now I've got my slides hopefully back up on the screen. So that is the SaaS starter kit. Again, it's just the beginning of what we plan on adding. There's a number of other features that we want to build out as part of our the SaaS starter kit to make it a little bit more robust. Being able to have a standardized way of adding new application modules to the starter kit, having more capabilities around users and groups and more flexibility there. And there's plenty of other features and capabilities that we can add, reference examples around building dashboards or forms-based applications. There's the list is very long for things that we want to add. But again, this is our way of attempting to standardize the way we build these types of applications, and we're hoping that others can get some benefit out of it. And so that is the demo. Oh yeah, and the other, we will be adding other backend options. So if you're not using GraphQL or if GraphQL is not an option, we will have some REST versions of the application and many other things to think about. So we'd love to hear your thoughts as part of our community on where else you'd like us to see, what other features you'd like us to see like to see us add to the starter kit for the types of applications that you're building. So please let us know. So with that, let's see if I can advance to the QA slide. So with that, we'll open it up to questions. Again, I'm Jason Klein, the CTO of Celestial Systems, and I appreciate your time today listening to what I have to say. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mark and Phil to answer, to see if there's any questions.
Great, thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
There are a few questions. Also, if you do have a question, you can put them in the text box in the application. So, Mark, there's a question. The question is, are there anything in the SaaS toolkit that requires cost or license fee?
Well, that depends on what you use for your authentication provider. As you heard Jason talk, we use the Auth0 environment as the default. And if you go and get the SaaS starter kit, that's what you'll see implemented, which is Auth0. There are other products that you could use, things like Okta and a few others. Most of them have a free tier and a paid for tier. So depending on which version you want to use, or which product you want to use, you may want to go to their respective websites to see. They're usually capped at the number of users. So you can use things for free until you hit, a certain number of users. So anything else in the toolkit was all open source tooling, open source components, React itself obviously being open sourced. So you don't necessarily have to pay for anything to take advantage of what we've built with the SaaS starter kit.
Great, thank you. A question as far as getting more information. Maybe we should put the website on the all section of the text.
Yeah.
Someone looking for more information, maybe we could put up the website there.
Sure. Yeah, I just put up on the screen the home website for the Lattice JS product, since Jason mentioned quite a bit about Lattice. You may not have seen our first webinar where we discussed what Lattice was and where to find it. So if you are interested in getting more information about the SaaS starter kit we talked about today, or some of the examples that Jason alluded to, latticejs.com is the place to go. And we will be posting anything new there. The lattice.js website is supported by a GitHub repo. So if you're on the latticejs.com page, if you just scroll down to the bottom of the page and click this GitHub fork button, you'll be taken over to the Lattice.js GitHub repository. And most things that you're wanting to take advantage of will either be in examples and packages. We are currently in the process of putting together the latest version of the SaaS toolkit, and that will end up in the packages folder very soon. So this is a good place to look for it, and anything else you might want to see in terms of Lattice.
And I have another question regarding grids.
Yeah.
In our applications, we need an advanced grid. What kinds of grids are available in React, and which ones have you tested?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So certainly most enterprise applications that we've seen need some sort of data grid to show the data that you're using in the application. We are focused in Lattice.js on business-oriented enterprise applications, so we certainly see the grid as being very, very crucial to that. And we want everything to be consistent and work together. So the SaaS toolkit does require a little bit of list presentation, and we use a grid in that. A couple grids that we tend to take advantage of, and we have in the SaaS starter kit and in Lattice itself, are AG grid, which is a pretty popular grid. There are paid for versions, and there is also a community version of AG grid. So that's certainly one that is in our best practices. We also use the grid that comes from Sencha, and there is a React version of that grid that we Celestial are enhancing as we speak. So the Sencha grid is another good example of a grid that you may want to use. As long as we're talking about grids and components in general, you'll notice in here that there are several other things somewhat related to grids. There's our best practices tree implementation. There's an infinite list. You may be noticing here there are other things that aren't grid related. There's a Ferrala editor. There is Recharts, which is a charting package. Fusion Charts, which is another very good charting package. And then we have a collection of general widgets that we feel are best practices. And all of this we will continue to enhance. But specifically to answer your question on grids, I would say either AG Grid or the Sencha Grid are two great choices.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Sure.
I don't see any other questions, so I think we'll wrap it up. This will be recorded, and we will make sure that all the attendees are able to get this link to the recording. And by all means, if you have any additional questions, do not hesitate to reach out to Mark, Jason, or myself, and we will definitely answer you promptly. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.